Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about animal familiars. They're not just up there with spiritual protectors. Animal protectors, animal familiars are very aggressive with their protection of their witches and their warlocks and their family in general. And today is a prime example of that. Okay. My son's mother and I had dropped our son off to school this morning, and we were taking my familiars out onto the trails. And the ironic part is we didn't hear it, we didn't see it until it was too late. It was an unknown canine species, meaning that it could have been a coyote, it could have been, you know, a homeless dog, that's had puppies in the trails and everything, and in the wilderness. Um, it could have been anything really for a type of dog. Well, luckily it was me that got bit and not my son's mother or one of the dogs. But anyways, we were walking along, having a great time, just talking and paying attention to the dogs. They were doing their little sniff fest, going back and forth. So right now I'm in a little bit of pain, as you could see. So you could see it. Numerous lacerations, two of which were kind of gnarly. When Facebook and TikTok tend to censorize a photo, it normally tells you everything you need to know. Um, so yeah. So, anyways, we were walking on the trails this morning. We didn't see or hear anything, and it was pretty much a wide open trail. And it was funny because of the fact that all I remember is pain because it latched onto my hand. I ended up on my knees. My phone landed on the ground. My keys were just a little bit in front of it. And next thing I know, it let go of my hand, and the dogs, did what they do. They protect their family, they protect their witches and warlocks. Well, guess what? If my son's mother had not held on to the leash, they would have gone after this animal and shredded it. So the animal, I don't blame it. It was one of those things where you could have been near its den, you could have been near, something that it was fearful or protecting something because it happened that fast. It was literally, it grabbed my hand for roughly about 3 to 5, seconds, but it did a lot of damage. And even right now, it's just sitting there throbbing. It's going to be that way for at least a day or two. And it's one of those things where you got to realize that when you're dealing with animal familiars, these are no joke. They're not just spiritual guides, they're not just protectors and guardians. You hear the stories throughout history, the whispers in the dark, if you will, of witches and their familiars. Think about it this way: there's truth to those legends, to those myths. So, I've already explained that, Soldier Boy. But to repeat it, we were walking through the trails, an unknown canine species. I didn't really get a good look at it. Took a hold of my hand, took me down to the ground. My familiars went after it with a vengeance. Um, if my son's mother had not held on to the leash, the leashes, they would have kept on going and hunted that thing down and shredded it. If you've ever seen what a pit bull can do to a pack of coyotes, trust me, Siberian Huskies are offshoots of the gray wolf. If you think a pit bull versus husky, coyotes is pretty impressive. You just see what a husky can do to another dog. Okay. So, anyways, yeah, it took a hold of my hand. It did some very good sized damage. I got a couple nerves that were, let's just say, kind of nicked, if you will. So they're kind of throbbing and very sensitive you know, at the moment. I got a very nice little gash on the back of my hand that is going to leave probably a nice little scar. And then on top of that, you got the one that looks like a slice of meat, if you will, on the palm of my hand. And I will I will post the photos of my hand so independently in a post and kind of show you what happens with a canine bite. Like I said, I don't blame the dog. I don't blame my dogs for defending me. It was just one of those things that, you know, it would have been nice to have had a heads up from, the city saying, hey, there's homeless dogs out there that are attacking people. There's, homeless people with dogs that are aggressive. It would be nice to have a location of where these things took place. It's kind of like putting out a bolo saying, "Hey, there's parvo here, but we're not going to give you the fucking locations of where it was identified or recorded, rather." So this, like I said, this here kind of came out of the blue this morning. It wasn't what we were expecting to do this morning, but and yeah, I am in pain because of it. But like I said, it could have been a lot worse if my dogs weren't with me and my son's mother. So, but like I said, familiars will protect their witches, their warlocks with a ferocity that most animals, household pets will not. Some myths say that they are demons that are there to protect you, to teach you and to guide you. Others would say that, say for an example, that they are just guardians. They're daytime guardians. Well, guess what? They protected me this morning. They stepped in because when this thing took me down out of the blue, I didn't even have time to react. It happened that fast. All I know is my male dog, my male husky, my familiar, my buddy, he just jumped right into action. And you know what? I'm proud of him. I am proud of him for stepping up at it 2 years old, being a familiar, being a guard dog, because I did train him as such. He stepped up to the plate and he went after that fucking thing, you know? And then you had Opal, who's my female dog. She's mama dog. She stepped in between me and Duke, in the attacking animal. Like I said, I didn't get a good look at it because I was more interested in getting the damn thing off my hand. Anybody who's had a dog bite will tell you it hurts like hell. You're not going to worry about what kind of breed it was or what kind of dog. It's more the fact, get the fuck off my hand. And then you notice the blood, and it's like, oh, I'm going to need stitches. Well, turned out I didn't need stitches, but I'm going to need rabies shots, and and I got tetanus shot, a tetanus shot, and yeah, my hand is throbbing. It's a little on the swollen side. Um, got to keep it clean and watch out for an infection over the next 3 days. And some of these messages are hidden, and I can't do anything right now. So I do apologize. I will, because I can't see it. So, anyways, like I said, there's a lot of myths, and I recommend for you beginners, you neophytes and acolytes that are getting into witchcraft, getting into Satanism, getting into demonolatry. You know, do your homework into the Bucharest. Do your homework into witches, familiars. The older the sources, the better. Okay. And I will tell you right up front that those myths and those legends live up to it. They live up to the hype. Okay. And like I said, I'm proud of my dogs. I'm proud of my familiars. They stepped up and did their job. The next 4 hours in the ER, having all the X-rays and all the shots and stuff in my hand because they had to do shots, 3 on each side, in one location, 4. That wasn't really painful. It was more the fact that the swelling and the pain associated with the wounds, especially when the blood's going through the joints. That is what was painful. But I will tell you point blank right now, if I didn't have my familiars with me this morning, this could have been a lot worse. You know, my son's mother could have gotten hurt. I could have gotten hurt even more. But no, because we had our familiars, my familiars with me, guess what? They protected the family. Awesome jobs to Duke and Opal. All right. So that's what I wanted to come on here and kind of say. And like I said, I will turn around and I will post the photos of my hand because after we got it cleaned up, I noticed that I had a few more let's just say I sprung a couple more holes that I wasn't aware of prior. So, but it explained why my thumb was still hurting and one of my other fingers. But like I said, there was 2 of them that looked like somebody had taken paper and gave me a nasty and very gnarly paper cut. Whereas the one on the back of my hand was the worst. And I think that was because I had to pull my hand from the animal's mouth. And that was something that, you know, caused that damage. And so they couldn't do staples, they couldn't glue it. They had to lay what do they call that? Gauze strips over the wound after sanitizing it. They call it irrigation. I had to do that twice. I had to spray this stuff on my hand over the wounds. And it's like, really? Just fucking bandage this thing up so I can get the fuck out of here. You know? But it was okay because I was I was cracking jokes. They were laughing. You know, okay, so I like pain. It's okay. But yeah, so anyways, like I said, even they said it could have been a lot worse. But I wanted to come on here and say, hey, if you want to get into witchcraft, you want to get on all this stuff, check out familiars, specifically that of animal familiars. They are aggressive, they are very loyal, they're trustworthy, and they will protect you from threats. Okay? Other kinds of familiars, such as spiritual familiars, demonic familiars, are more teachers, they're guides, they're educators. They lead you down the right path. And animal familiars will protect you from hostile species. And mine did that. So keep it up. All right? Have a good one.